All right. Hey, everyone. I am live right now. I am supposed to be being joined by Thrash Pondo Ponds. Please let me know if you can hear me or if there's something going on as far as my audio is concerned, because I have no idea unless I hear from you folks tonight. Thrash Pondo seems to be having maybe some technical difficulties. We're hoping to get him in here soon, but I am going to go wherever the conversation leads me, given the fact that you guys are going to interact with me and say stuff and ask stuff. And we're going to talk about 80s trivia. We're going to talk about 70s trivia. We're going to talk about 90s trivia. And we are, let's see. Oh, yeah, Thrash Pondo has joined us. How you doing?
A little bit tricky, but I finally made it through. I
Ah,
had to jump through the hoops as always.
awesome. So I just told everybody we're going to be, letting everyone kind of um, lead the conversation. The basic conversation is going to be book versus movie, but I'm open to talk about whatever anybody else wants to talk about. Doesn't matter to me. I want this to be a good show. Zooperplex is with us, and it
Hey, Zoop.
says the book had to be better than the movie. Superplex also says, finally, I see. Well, let me just say, Superplex, you ask a perplexing question. We got to pause right there because I don't always, for me personally, I'm a movie guy. For the most part, I think Thrash Pondo is a book guy for the most part. Not saying we'd ever cross over. So, um, I don't always like the book better, even when I get around to reading it. Some people say, "Oh, you got to read the book." Then I read the book, and I'm like, I still like the movie better, But not always, not always the case. John Collins says, "Yes, I can hear you." Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Superplex says, "I can finally see you." Good. I don't know. Maybe you had your eyes closed. I don't know.
Or
Maybe.
how many installments did not have me go live because I was in limbo land? Now that I can finally get my camera up and going, you can finally see my boyish charm.
Yes. And Superflex asks further, isn't the discussion on Dune? It's actually going to be on Dune, and it's going to be on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's going to be on Starship Troopers. But honestly, it's going to be wherever you take us. If you want us to riff on Dune, book versus movie, we're going to be happy to do that. Just kind of taking questions, answers. We did a whole podcast on each one of these. So we spent a whole hour on Dune. We spent a whole hour on Starship Troopers, and we spent a whole hour on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not
And then
in that
some.
order. Yes. And so now we're just going to kind of talk about all of it, our 80s and 90s and 70s trivia. So whatever you want to talk about. Okay, isn't the discussion Dune? Go ahead. What were you going to say, Thrash
I
Pondo?
was going to say, if you'll indulge me, one thing I'd like to say is I saw your podcast on the Star Wars franchise, by the way. It was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
For those of you who haven't seen it, go and check it out. It was great. But it jogged my mind. An earlier post on my channel, I actually do a comparison between Dune and Star Wars. And I'm sure you know Lucas was certainly inspired by Dune. But what I came up with, if you look at it, there are a number of really interesting similarities between Anakin and Paul Atreides. And I won't go into them too much, but if anyone is interested, I'd be happy to answer any questions to which people might think that's an interesting theory.
Well, I think that there is some interesting, crossover between Anakin and Paul Atreides. The characters are similar. They both go through a crisis of faith, and there's a lot of similarities between those two characters, for
They both got
sure.
off, they both got off fighting for good, and because of a number of various calamities in their life, end up going pretty dark. I mean,
Yeah,
both triggered nasty wars.
yeah.
You have the Jihad in the Dune franchise, and of course you have the Clone Wars in Star Wars. So
Yeah. So John Collins asked, "Hey Ian, who's the lady in your video opening?" You know what? That's just stock footage that I got. I just pushed in stock footage, retro, something or other, and that one came up, so it was free. So I clipped it out and I use it, and it kind of represents old people trying to look young and talk about the good old days. That's kind of what I what this
That's
channel's
an
about.
appropriate icon.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, which one was your favorite out of the book? So, this is the categories that we made, and I'll stop here for just a second. We'll talk about this. We made, we like the book better, we like the movie better, or you can't decide because they both have their own life in and of themselves. And for me, if you're asking which do you was your favorite book or movie, that's one I can't decide. They're both good. The movie is an A+ movie in my opinion, and the book is an A+ book. So they both
I,
take on
I,
their own life for me. Yes.
I think what he's asking is which of the three installments was our favorite: Starship Troopers, Dune, or Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh,
That's
if
my
that's
interpretation.
hmm, I can't even on that one. Well, can you pick or no?
I can. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy just had a special place in my heart when I was a kid. It's sort of an action comedy sci-fi romp. It was just a wonderful adventure. Not knocking Starship Troopers or Dune, but I read that one first of the three, so that one has been with me the longest. So I'm gonna have to go Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know for me. I can't decide. They're all three very different books and they're all three very different movies, although they're all sci-fi movies. Yeah, for me it's I can't decide. I don't have a favorite book and I don't have a favorite. Well, let me see. I would have to say my favorite movie out of the movies is going to be Dune, and probably my favorite book out of the three so far was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'd have to say that was my favorite. Those are my favorites so far. Not to knock any of the other ones, but um, yeah. Anyway, Superplex says Anakin became Darth Vader for one. Yes. And Paul Atreides did not become Darth Vader.
No, he did
So
not. He became a I don't want to say an evil emperor, but he became a sort of a potentate, I guess is the word I'm looking for. You know,
yeah.
a zealot ruler.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to the Star Wars thing just real quick for a second. What did you think about my rewrites? About my about if I had it my way?
Well, to be honest, you brought up so many amazing points. It was so as you want to go, yeah, A lot of them I thought of myself. A lot of them you kind of blew my mind. I'm like, oh my god, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly if you want now the thing about each of the movies in the franchise when you watch them over and over and over again as we both did, you find these little plot holes, and it's like you know
Yeah.
what and some of them really bother you, and some of them you can learn to live with. One thing, and you brought up an amazing point, is there's no real investment between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker in the first one. Oh,
Yeah.
we want there to be. We read into it. We infer it because, for the purpose of the narrative, you have to kind of embrace the two of them as a team. But they only met each other a few days before. So when Obi-Wan dies and Luke is destroyed, it's sort of really you only met the guy a few days ago. What's with the sudden? I mean, granted, he kind of bailed your backside on a few occasions, but you were very right about how it seemed he was being awfully melodramatic, particularly, and they actually do this in Family Guy. Princess Leia just lost her adopted planet with
Yeah.
billions of people, and she's taking it better than he does, and he
Yeah.
loses. Well, three people. He lost his aunt and uncle too. We'll go
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
Right.
But that
Right.
was a
Right.
great point you made. I really love that point.
Oh, thank you. And honestly, I think if there was like, well, I don't know. Let's see. Boy, if there's one thing I could change, it would be the Ewoks. I mean, that would be the one thing that I would change the most would be the Ewoks.
It
But
was a cash
let's,
grab.
yeah.
Hmm.
But if there was 2 points I could change, I really wish Obi-Wan would not have died in the star in on the Death Star, that he would have escaped somehow and then died right before Luke Skywalker went to Dagobah, kind of on the Hoth planet. Maybe had another battle scene there on Hoth planet, and then died there. Okay, let's see. We got another comment here. Let's see where this takes us. Thresh, Pondo, how did you come up with your screen name? Do you have a comedy background? Because you have a very quick sense of humor. Yes, you do, by the way. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I will answer the first question first. It's actually, as you've probably noticed if you've watched any of my stuff, my favorite science fiction author of all time is Brian Wilson Aldiss. He's probably best known for writing the short story that AI is based on. But he wrote a another short story of mine. It was called The Legends of Smithburst. And it's about a guy who he's going on vacation, and in this futuristic society, you use transmat beams, sort of like the Star Trek beaming aboard, only it goes across planets. And he gets, because of some things I won't get into, there's a malfunction. He gets pulled into this planet, which has been mutated by a collision with antimatter, and all the people living there are kind of mutated, and they represent various different life forms. Like you'll have a person who's part spider and part wombat, that type of thing. And one of the main characters he meets is a character named Thrash Pondopons. And I just thought that was incredibly catchy. It had a nice ring to it. So when I came up with a gamer name many years ago, when I did more gaming, I came up with Thrash Pondopons, because I go by Thrash Pondo. Thrash Pondopons was the extended. So yeah, it's from Brian Aldiss short stories. Is the short answer. And as far as the comedy background goes, I'm a bartender by trade, and people like their bartenders to be, quick-witted and always have a joke and a story. So I try to. So I've never done professional comedy, although I did audition for the Food Network a few years ago. Me and
wow.
Yeah, I was working. I'll give you the story if you'd like it. I was
Sure.
working in a Chinese restaurant a few years ago. I was bartending, and my manager was a master Chinese chef and was doing local classes at the vocational school just as a hobby. And they said, the kids love your classes. Why don't you do some local access TV? This is back when local access TV was a thing, before it was taken over by YouTube. And so he was doing some local access TV. And the problem was, like most great chefs, when he really got in the zone, he would turn up the world. So you'd see his hands moving. So when you dice the kung pao, you be sure to, and he would just stop talking. So you see plenty of action, but there'd be no engaging volume. So they needed someone who could fill the dead air.
Yeah.
One thing I excel at is filling dead air. So they say, bring Bob on. And what I did was I came on board. I played his bumbling assistant. It was the part I was born for. And I would hand him his utensils. And anytime he stopped talking, I would tell corny jokes. I would make fun of his cooking. I would tell silly stories about the guys who hung out at the bar. And we did this for laughs. And we were having some fun. And then one day we get a phone call from the Food Network. We love your show. Send us a demo tape. And before you could say what happened, we weren't picked up. It was very nice to get the call. So apparently, some people recognize talent. And Mr. Collins, thank you as well, by the way, for your question.
Awesome story. Hey, so let's talk about Dune, and let's talk about what Dune, and is there anything else? The other two? No, I'm kidding. I almost said Guardians of the Galaxy, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and Starship Trooper, and the book versus movie. Now, I do have to say that the biggest difference in all of those was Starship Troopers. I think that held the biggest difference between the book versus the movie. I think I told you this when we were talking last time. I hadn't seen the movie in a long time. What I did was I'd listened to the book, and then I went back and watched the movie. Then we did the taping, or not the taping, but the videoing. And when I started listening to that book, I wondered if I got the right book. I'm like, is this, like, it's been a while since I've seen Starship Troopers, but is this the right book? I mean, am I right on this or whatever? And then finally, so I went back and I looked it up, and I saw a little still of the teacher who had no hand, and that was a pretty big part of the book. And they showed him in that, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm onto the right one. Book versus movie. Take it away, Thrash Pondo. Say anything you want to say about it. And ask any questions out there you want to ask about this or whatever.
I love a challenge. I love a challenge. But yes, I do concur. Is that of the three, the two that have the least amount of middle ground would have to be Starship Troopers. And you brought up an excellent point, by the way, about how originally it wasn't going to be Starship Troopers. It was Attack on
Attack on Bug Post 9 or Outpost 9, Bug Attack on Outpost 9 or something like that. Yeah.
And when it was being conceptualized, someone said, "Hey, this is Starship Troopers." So they pulled that on board, which I wrote. There's a great story about Heinlein, by the way. A very similar thing happened to him with a Star Trek episode. He wrote a short story about this living creature, which looks like carpet, and when it reproduces, like it splits apart, and people keep it as pets. The guy who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles found out about the short story after the fact, and they actually paid Heinlein a credit, what do you call it, a contributing credit, for The Trouble with Tribbles, because there were so many points of similarity. They were afraid they would get sued after the fact.
Yeah.
Because Heinlein did in fact sue people who ripped him off. So, but it was weird that, here we are. Was Paul Verhoeven responsible for the fantastic theme of the movie? I don't think so. He certainly authorized the soundtrack, the music, but I don't think he actually was involved in the creative end of it at all. Do you know offhand?
I don't know. I have no idea. That's a great question, Superplex. That's one of those questions. I have a joke. I didn't make it up, but it's between me and my brother. We know everything, and then whenever somebody asks me something I don't know, I say that's when my brother knows. So it's true though. Between me and my brother, we know everything, and if I don't know it, he does. It's just he's not here right now, so I can't help you. All right, no, I'm kidding. Let's see. Let's go back to Dune. One of the things we kind of got into the groove of asking from the very beginning, was there anything in the movie that you wish is there anything in the book that you wish was in the movie? So when you're thinking about Dune, is there anything about Dune, the book, that you wish was in the movie? And obviously, they're different venues. They are different. You can't just film a book. It would be boring. Nobody would watch it. You have to speed things along. But as far as book versus movie, is there anything in the book of Dune that you do wish was in the movie? And Terrell says, hello, Ian and Thrash.
How you doing, Terrell? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And then, by the way, ask any question you want. We don't have to stay on topic. We don't, but I'm just keeping it on topic until something else comes up. So,
with my ADHD, it's hard for me to get on topic. But you raised a good point. One thing that I thought that the movie could have profited from was in the book. And I'm going to butcher this name. I'm so sorry. The Sakatahara warriors, the Imperial Guard.
Yeah,
they're far more elaborated upon. In the movie, they're just sort of these like mindless killers. In the book, they have like an honor code, and they have character.
Yeah,
they're much better developed. I also think they should have left the weirding way in. One of the coolest things in the book was the fact that House Atreides, their warriors, have this really cool martial arts, and this sort of mind over matter, where they can actually do physically impossible things because they put their mind to it. And I thought that was pretty darn slick. They replaced it with, sound-enhancing guns, which, don't get me wrong, are very cool. But the weirding way, particularly in that last fight scene where he has to fight Fedorutha, I mean, if he could have really done some really, like, kick-butt martial arts moves, I thought that would have been a really great scene.
That was one of the flaws of the 80s, unless you're getting into either kung fu movies or ninja movies. When you started seeing martial arts in other movies, it's really not as good. You know what I mean? It's like you could do a lot better. Star Wars included, that's for that. Empire Strikes Back was obviously better for reasons I've talked about before, as far as the action is concerned, but they could have done a lot more, and they just didn't. And I wish they would have. Um, for me, um, I wish they would have done more with the heart, as I recalled now. I mean, I'm sure I'll remember other things later. The Harkonnens were a little bit more kind of bumbling idiots, and they were actually pretty slick bad guys in the book. I think that they were pretty slick bad guys in the book, and I wish they would have kept. I wish they would have rewritten those characters. They just, it was over the top evil. It was over we're just so evil and cruel and yes. All right. Superplex asked the question: did Sting ruin the movie? Not for me, but I don't know if you think so. I mean, everybody's got an opinion on things like that. I thought I didn't. If he hadn't been in the police or had a solo career and he was just an actor in the show, I don't think that it would have been any different for me at all. So I don't know. What do you think?
It was a very small role. I mean, granted, half of it is him saying, "I will kill you. I will kill you." I mean, but that was more the fact that they just decided that was a really cool catchphrase. In the days before memes, that was a meme, and they just had him repeating it over and over again. I thought the fight scene he did at the end was pretty slick. When he was being really cavalier. I thought, I don't know, if they'd used him more. I think he was like creme brulee. If there was too much of him, I think he may have ruined the movie. But I think the portion he was in, I thought worked fine.
All righty. Terrell asks a question here. From what I read, according to the interviews, David Lynch said that his disagreement with the studio and through shooting schedule, there were the reasons to blame for the failure of Dune. Did it not succeed at the box office? Because I don't know if it did or not, but let me just say this. I loved Dune, and even when I went back to watch it, I thought it held up pretty good. I think it's a great movie. It's the one thing I do remember way back then listening to Siskel and Ebert talk about Dune, and the one criticism that I did remember was they said it was hard to follow. The show was hard to follow, which of course in the book, you get that more. You get the explanations more, and it's slower, and you can actually follow all the little secrets and things like that are going on between the houses and the backstabbing and all that stuff. But for me, so I've watched it as a kid several times, and then I've watched it as an adult. And as a kid watching it, it's action. I mean, I follow the story enough to know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and then it's action. And so those intricacies didn't bother me probably as it would an adult. But then even when I watched it as an adult, maybe I just watched it enough that I could follow it. So I liked the movie myself.
Oh, I enjoyed it too, and I think, and speaking as to the immersion and people having a tough time following it, in the day when it was first released into the theaters, many cinemas would hand out glossary sheets to people seeing the movie. So when they heard a word they didn't know what it was, they could scroll down and find out what the people were talking about. I think people did suffer from not being able to immerse themselves in it quickly enough. I would guarantee you probably 3/4 of the people who went to see it hadn't read the book at that point. Frankly, I read the book after I saw the movie. That's probably one of the things for me. I think Lynch was, I think, scapegoated in many ways. Bear in mind, he wasn't even the initial director. He sort of got dragged.
Yeah.
I think what happened was very similar to the experience with Liz Taylor's Cleopatra. I think at one point the studios decided to drop it like a hot potato. So they didn't market it properly. And many other things, which caused it to have a really false start. Another thing, some people disagree with me on this. A lot of it is very inconsistent. Some of the special effects are phenomenal. In some scenes, they cut corners, and fanboys hate stuff like that. There's a scene where they're supposed to be running across the worms, the Fremen warriors, and the worms are bumpy, but they're running across in a straight line, so you can tell that they're on just some sort of catwalk. And
it's cut in. Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of people were really critical of that. I thought Mr. Ferrer as the Emperor was outstanding. Speaking of soundtracks, like we were before, I thought Toto did a wonderful job with the music, and I thought a lot of it really worked. But I thought that there were some very unfortunate inconsistencies which dragged it down. Coupled with the fact, again, the studio really didn't give it its all to try to make it a success.
Yeah.
I think
That's true. I'm sorry the studio didn't do that. And John Collins asks a question. Question for both of you. If you could have a turn in Star Trek The Next Generation, what sort of environment would you choose for your turn on the holodeck?
Ooh. That's a very good question.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know.
I would probably use something from the original series.
Yeah.
So it would be Star Trek within Star Trek. Which one I would use would be subject to debate. I'd probably, I don't know, maybe The Cave with Merritt Hartley? Maybe. Maybe. There's no wrong answer, but
I'm not even going to attempt to answer that because it would really just depend upon the day and the mood I was in.
Depend on your mood, yes.
I thought Sting's fight scene was unconvincing.
Again, he was trying to be very cavalier with it, and it did come off a little hokey. And again, I will kill him. I will kill him. Yeah, we get it. You'll kill him. You know, he went to the pot a little bit too often with that one. So I will agree with you as far as that goes. You remind me of the character actor Joey Dioria. Joey Dioria.
I'm not familiar with him either.
Joey Dioria. Yes, we both like Dune.
Yes.
I'm talking to Zero. Yes, we both like Dune.
We both like Dune. Both the book and the movie for different reasons. For me, it's equal. I don't know for you if you like the book better than the movie, but for me, they're both A's for me. So I can't choose one over the other. I like them both for different reasons.
I do pick the book, but I think both have their merits. I so wish they had gone ahead, and I know it would have had to have been a miniseries. But famous South American director Andrei Jodorowsky was in pre-production for his vision of Dune. It would have been about 11 hours long, unfortunately. But he would have literally brought the book to the screen. I don't know if it's still on. There was a wonderful documentary about Jodorowsky's vision for Dune that was on YouTube that was just amazing. And I'm also looking forward, I must confess, I am looking forward to October's reboot of Dune. I think, based on what I've read, it stays like a more faithful adaptation, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like don't mess it up. I mean, we're all on board. Just don't mess it up. But we all have such a unique palette as far as what messing it up it consists of, you know. So it's very, very difficult to tell. But you know, for me, I'm just like, don't mess it up. I'm not persnickety. I really like entertainment and arts. You know, just don't mess it up. Just don't do something stupid. Don't do what they did with the last 3 Star Wars shows. Ugh. Okay. Do you know that Gates McFadden, Dr. Beverly Crusher on Star Trek Next Generation, woohoo, what a looker, by the way, actually worked for Jim Henson on the set of Labyrinth? I did not know that. Thanks for filling me in, Terrell. Interesting. The kiss scene with Lieutenant Uhura. Maybe you'd put that on the holodeck. Along with a lot of other things, by the way. All right, look, I'm not going to go there. It's a family-friendly show.
He played Bozo the Clown in Chicago and many, many commercials. John Collins, I'm going to check him out, by the way, because you had me intrigued. I get Zach Galifianakis a lot. I get Jack Black. I get Peter Jackson. But I'll have to check out this Dioria. Yeah. I'll have to check him out.
Isn't he a Chilean director?
I believe you're either Chilean or Argentinian, but somewhere in the south. South America. But yes, he's the one who he also did El Topo. He did Santa Sangria. He did Holy Mountain. He's known for doing surreal film. I love El Topo. That's sort of a mystic western. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But he's definitely South American.
Well, let's move on to Gates McFadden helped. Say that again. Helped
choreograph the famous ball scene in Labyrinth.
Oh, cool! Really, awesome.
I did not know that either.
Awesome.
She was credited under the actual name Cheryl McFadden. Oh, I did not know that.
Cool.
Excellent.
Let's move. I want to talk a little bit about your favorite book movie, my favorite book, and that is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I want to tackle it from the other direction because we asked these certain questions. Was there anything about the movie that you're glad that the book had that you're glad didn't make it into the movie? That you're like, yeah, that would have been too cumbersome. That would have maybe, you're glad that there was that cut in the book.
The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is that they trimmed down some of the locations. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but Magrathea has two different purposes in the movie, and it's two different settings in the book. One is the planet Frogstar, and for the purposes, I would say, of economy of locations, they tighten it up quite a bit because they do a lot more jaunting in the book, and it would have become a little disjointed in a feature film where you're really trying to follow the exploits of a small group of characters.
Yeah. My one big criticism of the movie was that they had that whole thing with Zooey Deschanel that was this that's not even in the book. Her whole getting and I haven't read all the books, so I was thinking, well, maybe it's in a later book and they just retroactive it to the movie, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's in any of them, actually. And that was kind of a disappointing scene. I was just like, it's a little, I don't know. There are a lot of things in the book that could have been in the movie that didn't make it into the movie. And let's see. That and a lot more Superplex and a lot more, but we're keeping it family friendly here. Hello, guys. Hello, Jimmy C. How you doing, brother?
I can't get my camera. I'm going to keep going backwards because I meant to go this way, and my camera is like
it's kind of hard.
The wrong spot. Bear with me.
For me, it's kind of hard for me. Yes. So, the book was incredible as far as the book versus the movie on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I thought it was just so funny, so darn funny, and it was really difficult to bring the funniness of that book into a movie. It's a type of humor that it's difficult to put that into film. It's really difficult. It's one of those high, dry kind of sense of humors that reading it, you're really getting it, but watching it, you might get it, you might not get it because it's just hard to transfer over. But on this one, and I did like the movie. I did like the movie, but the movie wasn't my favorite movie out of them. The book was definitely by far my favorite out of the book versus movie. Go ahead.
Have you had a chance to see the early '80s BBC miniseries yet?
I have not seen that. I've seen clips of it though.
It's a far more faithful and adaptation. And the more important thing is, one of the things the book has, which the movie didn't have, is this. There's a certain timing and chemistry between Ford and Arthur, almost vaudevillian, almost like Abbott and Costello. And I thought that was captured much better in the BBC miniseries. The Ford and Arthur in the miniseries play off each other much, much better. It's not that I didn't like the actors in the movie; they just didn't seem to click. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they didn't. There wasn't as much chemistry there. And also there's a chemistry added in the movie that wasn't in the book, and that's the chemistry between Zoe Deschanel and the lead character, her
Arthur.
character and the lead character Arthur. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
And uh, um, that's not in the book at all. Like there's this kind of tension between the two of them in the movie. And first of all, talk about a girl who's waited. He's an incredible actor. Yes, he played he played Tim in the Office version. He played Frodo. I mean, he played, all kinds, not Frodo. He played Bilbo, all kinds of stuff.
I knew what you meant.
He's a great actor, but give me a break. Zoe Deschanel is way out of his league. And the chemistry that wasn't in the book that did get transposed into the movie did not. It just didn't seem realistic to me. It just didn't seem realistic to me.
Well, in the book, she has no use for Arthur. I mean, she doesn't hate him, but she kind of tolerates him as this sort of, loser. That's why she runs off with Zaphod. Even when they rescue him, she's kind of like, "Oh yeah, nice to see you again."
Yeah.
He ends up with another woman 2 or 3 books in. Fenchurch, I believe her name is. I haven't read the books in years, but
Yeah.
he ends up with a completely different woman, and Trillian just sort of. In fact, I think she and Zaphod even split up, and she just sort of disappears.
Yeah.
Because Zaphod generally in the later books anyway. So
Now
but,
she is kind of that dry character, and Zoe Deschanel does capture that. But
yeah,
in the book, she just isn't even interested in Arthur at all. At all. Like
no,
it's
she
just
barely
not
tolerates
even
him.
there. She barely. Where this one's kind of like she plays with affection a little bit. Like, well, if things would have been different, I could have seen myself with you, or whatever. All right, Terrell writes, Ian, I would love to see you share your thoughts on Richard Linklater's 1993 coming of age cult gem Dazed and Confused in future episodes. Do you think it would be an amazing idea? I do think it would be an amazing idea, and I did like Dazed and Confused. I was a fan. I've seen it a couple times. Um, I don't want to say anything about it right now that might get me in trouble or whatever, because it's been a while since I've seen it. So let me hold back on that, and I'll rewatch it, and then we can talk about it on one of these episodes. And Jimmy C says books are always better than the movies. I know that's the opinion of most people. It's not my opinion, but it is an opinion that a lot of people have. The Spy Who Came In from the Cold was better than the book. I'm going to drop a bomb here. Now, no one's going to like this. Everyone's going to hate me, and this is outside. This is outside of what I do from the 60s, late 60s, all the way to the 2000s. Our time frame that we talk about. But I will be on now. You're going to hate me for this. Everybody's going to hate me for this. I get it. Okay, everybody's going to hate me for this. Lord of the Rings movies way better than the book. Okay, all right. Let me just say it. Movies way better than the book. Don't have a heart attack, people. But listen, I read the book. The last book, The Return of the King, first, because I watched the first 2 movies. And
The Hobbit?
No.
I thought everyone said The Hobbit. I know, but you're supposed to start with The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
Listen, The Hobbit is the poster child for bad adaptation. The Hobbit is the poster child for bad adaptation of book versus movie.
Okay.
I mean, it is to take one book and to stretch it out over 3. It's just the worst. Anyway, and I loved The Hobbit. I actually read The Hobbit.
So you did like the book?
Oh yeah. I love the book.
Either. I'm like, really?
No. But that's the worst adaptation. But for me, the first book that I read out of the Lord of the Rings series was the last one, because I watched the first 2 movies, and the other one wasn't going to come out for a year. And this was still new internet stuff. I mean, kind of new, but I was slow on getting to it. And my stepdaughter, who had read them all, would not tell me the end. So she made me read the book, and I did read the book, and I did love it. I thought the book was fantastic. Loved it. So I went back and I read the Fellowship of the Rings, and I got halfway through it, and I just quit. I just quit. I was like, this is, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, it takes so long for them to get out of the Shire. And I mean, it was just, come on, man. Yeah, but all right. Okay.
Oh,
You
one thing.
gave me,
There was a question on the board right before you went to your soliloquy, and someone
okay.
said that the spy who came in from the cold, the book. Here it is. The movie was better than the book. Never read the book, so Mr. Zeroplex, I will take your word for it. Uh,
Yes.
that I can. I do, however, I have one that I have to mention. Oh, we have another question from Mr.
No,
Collins.
go
Uh,
ahead. Mention it. One you have to mention.
Oh, what I had to mention was I can think of one crowning example of a case where the movie was better than the book, and that was for all you sci-fi, dystopian, post-apocalyptic fans out there, Soylent Green.
Oh,
Soylent
okay.
Green is fantastic. If you read the Harry Harrison police procedural novel, Make Room, bring pajamas. The book, I wanted to love the book, and it's not that it's bad, but it's laborious. And he spends it's one of those things where it's all world building. He wants you to see just how awful the world of the future is. So you're spending all your time like looking at the people starving to death, waiting. Okay, can we get a plot point at some point? And so I thought the movie was far better and had a much better ending. And that's all I can say without ruining both. Oh,
Okay.
and
All right.
all right, Mr. Collins here. You mentioned that the humor was difficult to bring in the movie. Was what sort of comedy movies do you both enjoy? Oh, you first.
There are too many to list. I like everything comedy, all the way from, and it's not that it wasn't a bad comedy. Please don't misunderstand me. It wasn't that the comedy was bad. It's just a difficult comedy to transfer over to a movie from the book to the movie, in my opinion. Comedies I like. I like everything uh, from the Naked Gun trilogy to Monty Python to Ben Stiller shows to I mean everything. I like Will Ferrell movies. Comedy is one of my bigger jams. So I mean, I just like I like comedies. It's everything. A lot of comedy. Some I don't know, vaudeville, not too much of a fan. The pie in the face kind of thing, not too much. But other than that, I mean, I really do enjoy comedies. Friends, as if you've noticed, and I actually didn't notice this until somebody pointed it out, was that my show, when I started talking about top 5 TV dads and top 5, I was always picking from comedies, and I really didn't realize I was doing it. I was just That's just what influenced me. So that tells me a little bit about comedies that you like. This is getting up in the sky here. I got to bring this back down, but quickly go ahead, tell us about the comedies you like, and then we'll get to this one here.
I love old classic comedies, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. But my personal favorites would have to be the Gene Wilder films, particularly the ones he did with Mel Brooks.
Oh yeah.
Young Frankenstein's my favorite of all time. Blazing Saddles is a must. The Producers. There you go.
Yes, very good.
Those are my favorites.
All right. In my honest opinion, I believe that 1984's The Never-Ending Story does the original book justice. I've
Take
heard
your
that
word
before.
for it.
I've not read the book. I've seen the movie.
Same
And
here.
then the worst movies are the second and third ones. And I don't know if you've ever seen those, but those are travesties. We should do. I was worried about your books are going to fall over on
You
the
were worried. I could feel them sliding behind. That's why it sort of froze. This is a big back for all people, by the way. It's a standee, so it'll.
Yes. Okay, let's see. 2001: A Space Odyssey was better movie than book.
I concur.
Now, if you're a fan of my channel and you're a fan of what we're doing here on Book versus Movie, you know that I actually have a reading disability. I have dyslexia, so it's very difficult for me to read. So I'm reading all of these books for like the first time with some of them not. Some of them were just so good. Like I said, I mentioned I read The Hobbit, and I've read The Return of the King, and I did read The Count of Monte Cristo at one time too, or at least most of it. But a lot of these I'm just getting into. So I don't, when people are going to geek out about me about the books and stuff, I really don't know them. I'm not a book guy. I'm a movie guy. So I'm going to have to take your word for it on a lot of these. And I do. You guys seem to have a good opinion, a very stalwart opinion about such matters. Okay. Let's see. Let's get to this. I prefer the never ending story, the movie, over the book. See? We got some movie people here. Movie over the book. I don't know what you think, but you said you have to take your word for it too.
Yeah, because I've seen the movie, have not read the book, but it seems a lot of people are going movie over book on this one, so I'm going to confer. One thing I'll tell you, and I don't want to give the game away because we might just cover this in a future episode. Very, 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 very few people will take the never-ending story, not the never-ending story, A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh yeah.
The new installment of A Wrinkle in Time was just when. Did you actually read the book when you were making this? So, if anyone out there liked the film adaptation of A Wrinkle in Time, just tell me why.
I did read about half of the book when of A Wrinkle in Time when I was real young. My grandmother. So I did bad in school. I did very poorly in school every year.
Same page club.
And what's that?
Same page club. I wasn't a great student either.
Yeah. And my grandmother oftentimes would try to fix my problems. And one of the things she did was try to make me read books. And so I'd read with her. And we read pretty far into A Wrinkle in Time. And I did remember enjoying it. But maybe that could be one we cover soon. We're actually going to be covering Ender's Game pretty soon here. So I'm almost done with it. I think I got like 3 more hours on the audiobook. All right, let's see. Loved Soylent Green.
I can't say my favorite line without giving the game away. But you know the line I was going to say, didn't you?
Well, I think that a movie and book that's old. I think people are going to be responsible for spoilers on that one. This is a spoiler show. Yeah.
It is a spoiler. It is not spoiler free, I'll give you that much. So I'll do it. It's people! It's people! And yes, Superplex. Airplane, the first one is one of my favorite movies, and I even like the second one. Not as much as the first, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. That's the movie, of course, which springboarded the second career of Leslie Nielsen, by the way. He had been a leading man before that, but he was reinvented as a comedian, and I think very well.
Yeah,
Airplane for sure. Was amazing. I just saw it again the other night. I couldn't sleep one night, so I was actually watching it on late night TV. It's just a great film. Robert Hayes is wonderful in that film.
All right, and then he also asks you this question: the Marx Brothers.
The Marx Brothers, of course. Duck Soup, which was actually the first film they did, which didn't turn a profit. Duck Soup is one of my favorite Marx Brothers movies. So yes, and of course Night at the Races, I am a huge Marx Brothers fan.
Yeah, Ian, I know you love a huge channel. However, these small conversations are awesome too. Yes, I love these small conversations, and one of my goals is to, in some venue, even if this gets big and stuff, I don't want to forget the people who made this channel happen at all. So I mean. Yeah, for sure. And everybody who, like, on these nights when you have these small chats, these actually mean the world to me and just kick me right in the head if I ever get to the point where I'm getting like a big channel and I forget the people who actually helped me when the channel was small and participated when the channel was small. I think Dave actually does a really good job at that. He's got a big channel. I mean, it's like 115,000 or something like that. And he really cares about each person. You know what I mean? And I want to keep that up as well. It means a lot to me too. So thank you for that.
Yeah. He hasn't forgotten the people who were with him when he had a couple hundred followers.
Yeah,
even though he has over 100,000 now, he still gets back to every single one and says, "Great point, love hearing from you." Dave is the best.
Yeah, this is interesting. John Collins asked me, "Are you still going to do a different world video?" So I pulled up a different world. Was it either last night or the night before, and I watched the first episode, and I actually really struggled to make it through that first episode. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a different world. I'd have to see like some summary stuff and then go back. It wasn't my favorite at the time. I really enjoyed it, but like so many things, now this isn't true for a lot of stuff. So, for example, like I still like watching. I hate saying his name because he's such a bad mention at this point, but I still love watching The Cosby Show. If I ever catch it on or see it somewhere or something like that, even as an older person, I still really liked it. I really liked Family Ties, even going back and watching Family Ties, even though it's a little preachy. Um, One of the most cheesiest shows that I ever saw was 21 Jump Street. At the time, it was wonderful, but I've gone back and watched it, but I can watch it. It's not unbearable. But I will be honest with you, John. I went back and watched A Different World, at least that first one, and I'll give it a little bit of a try. It was almost intolerable to watch. I really had a hard time muscling through it.
I kind of liked it because I was actually in college at the time when it was on. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the stuff that they mentioned is stuff that I was learning as a freshman in college. And I had a crush on Lisa Bonet.
Yeah, I did too. But it's one of those things that some shows you go back and you watch them and you recognize that they're cheesy, that they're indicative of their time, but
Oh, where?
they're tolerable for you for whatever. I tried it. There we go. We're back.
Yeah, you kind
Sorry
of
about
glitched out
that.
there for a second,
I
boss. No
tried it
worries.
with that and it just didn't work. I think yeah, I think you're frozen there. Oh well, my internet's
I'm
not
frozen now.
going well. I
Uh-oh.
hope everybody can still hear me, even if they can't. Oh,
Can
now
you
you're
hear me?
back. You're back. There we go. Yes.
Good.
But for me, it was very difficult for me to even sit through one episode. I actually had that same problem with one of my favorite shows and one of my favorite actors. So it's not just just kind of willy nilly kind of thing. Uh, I recently was watching Just Shoot Me. I'm a huge David Spade fan, and I really kind of had a hard time getting through the first season of Just Shoot Me, and into the second season, it was a little draggy for me. All right, let's move on here. So I don't know. I'll watch a few episodes. I'll give it to answer your question. I'll give it a try, but I have to enjoy what I do. Okay, I have to enjoy what I do, and if I can't really enjoy it, I can't do it. So, but I'll give it a try. All right, Terrell asks, in the 1997 slasher I Know What You Did Last Summer was loosely adapted from a 1973 young adult thriller novel of the same name by Lois Duncan, who wasn't really a fan of the film.
That happens
Nick,
all the time.
yeah,
All the time. Authors will permit people to do adaptations of their works and not like the adaptation at all. In some cases, even try to sue. So I'm
yeah.
not surprised at all. The Fog. Fog is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I love
Um,
the original one with Adrian Barbeau.
I am not familiar with this. What's the Stephen King short story that basically, I don't know if it was adapted into a movie or not.
There were two. One was The Mist, which was my favorite short story by Stephen King, which they did a competent job in the movie, but they changed a number of things. We could do a whole thing on that, so I won't give the game away. But that's one adaptation. The other one is The Fog, which, long story short, in the 1800s, a group of lepers are being brought to a colony in New England, and they're killed by the townspeople to get their treasure, which they have with them.
Yeah,
And that money is used to build a town. And 100 years later, the spirits of the lepers come back for revenge. I probably butchered that plot, but I haven't seen the movie in probably 10 years. But that's the
yeah.
gist of it. And it's excellent. And Adrian Barbeau is great. And also, well, it has a great ensemble cast. And it's a must watch.
Yes. Well, of course. Yeah. I have not seen it, so I'm gonna have to take your word for it.
You tend not
Uh,
to like horror films, so I'm not surprised you didn't see that one.
no, I watched some horror. I was a Freddy Krueger fan actually in the
That
'80s, but
counts.
I got out of that pretty quickly. There's some dark stuff in this world, and I don't. I wouldn't walk across the street to meet another one of those extra dimensional energy beings who are filled with evil. So I'll just leave it there. Blow your mind. I'll leave it there. I just there are certain things, in my opinion, that open a portal to a different world, and I'm just not interested in walking through them. So no, thank you. No horror shows for me.
I will honor that, because that's how the horror movies start. So I'm going to honor that, and we'll move forward.
Dave remembers his Mormon preaching background. Yes, he does talk about that occasionally. I'm not LDS, just so you know, even though I do live in the great state of Utah. I am not LDS. Let's see. I still see you.
I see you too.
I think that was back when it was going off, maybe. I know this is not about Dave. His channel is awesome, but he's an even better person. Yes, he is. For sure. Yeah, Dave's awesome, man. I mean, when I started this, my goal was I wanted to reach just like above me, like who's out there doing stuff. And you would be surprised how many people I reached who just didn't give me the time of day. And I don't seriously like they were too good for me or something, or whatever. Maybe they were. I'm not nobody, but I'm like, hey, give me a hand up, not a handout, And Dave, not only did he reach out back, answered me immediately, said he'd be on my program. He actually even helped me set some things up. And he didn't even know me at the time, other than the fact that I reached out and I said, hey, I'm starting this new channel and I'm looking for guests to be on my show to talk about nostalgia. And yeah, I mean, definitely an excellent person. Missing a good film, Ian.
Yeah.
Missing. Maybe. Yeah.
He meant Ian, not Eon.
That's okay.
You missed it for an eon.
Yeah, that's all right. Who's your favorite character in Twin Peaks? Okay, so this is something that's on my background right now because I've never seen Twin Peaks, never even one time seen Twin Peaks, and I actually want to do a retro review of something that are like I should have watched it then, kind of a thing. So you have to remember, and I said this before, like in the 90s, so in the 80s, I was a kid. And so I was home at night. And so my parents were watching TV, I'm watching TV, right? And then you go over to your friend's house and it's MTV and, and you watch what you can watch and VHS and all that stuff. As an adult into the 90s, things get a little spotty, and there were lots of stuff that I should have watched. I really should have watched, and I didn't watch. So no spoilers on Twin Peaks, even though this is a spoiler show, because I actually want to do a retro review where I watch it for the first time and then talk about it with you folks. It's actually on my mind to do it. I don't know if it's going to happen because I have so many things going on, but it is something I want to do. But let's try to keep that one a secret because I do want to watch it. I've heard so much about it and I've heard that it's so good and I wish I would have watched it. Who are those people, Eon? We need to take down names. The people who did. The people who I reached out to. Well, look, I don't begrudge them. Some of them don't answer. Okay, so listen, I don't know when somebody doesn't answer me, and I know I just said like they're too good for me or something like that. That happened on a couple of occasions. Most of the time, you just don't get an answer.
Yeah.
But you don't know if these people are getting thousands of emails a day or whatever. But I'll tell you people that I've reached out to that I would really like to interview. One of them is a guy. He does weird movies with Mark. I've reached out to him a couple times with they've just ignored me. And I've reached out to him while he's live. He's just ignored me. I haven't heard anything back from him. One of the people I've reached out to is Retro Blasting, which I love that channel. And I would love to have them on the show or be on their show or something like that, Retro Blasting. And the other one was Minty Comedic Arts. He does that too, and he's just never answered me back. And
anyone though, he doesn't answer. He gets like thousands of responses a minute. He doesn't answer anybody, I'm afraid.
Yeah, maybe on those those three, if you all want to, now some of them I've talked to and they've just said, well, we're too busy right now or whatever. But I mean, if you want to reach out, if you want to go out there and say, hey, you should be, there's this channel called, if we get all 4 or 5 people or 7 people who have shown up on here, I'll flood them mentioning
It's a
my channel.
movement.
Yeah. Maybe they would
A
be
movement.
on the channel, especially Retro Blasting. I think Retro Blasting is an awesome channel. Yeah. Whoa, we're way off topic, but Twin Peaks. Let's go Twin Peaks again.
Was an amazing show in its first season, but once I can't read without my glasses. I'm sorry, people.
Oh,
Yeah,
put your glasses on.
Yeah, I better get clear from my light, so please bear with me. Twin Peaks was an amazing show in its first season, but once the Laura Palmer mystery was solved, the show pretty much went off the rails, which led to its cancellation after season 2. That's not really a question, but it's an excellent point, and you're right. It is exactly what happened.
Here's for you.
This is for me. Farash Pondo Ponds, did you like the television miniseries Wayward Pines? Never saw it. My guess is it was on when I work nights. I'm a bartender by trade. And I miss a lot of television in its first run because I'm actually working. And you can't even put TV shows on too much. Usually people want sports. Ugh. Which is why I missed a lot. Although I did used to have watch parties for Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
Successful. Sorry, I spoiled the whole thing. Will you please forgive me? Terrell, you are more than forgiven.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you've ruined it or not. So it didn't seem like you ruined it. So, all right, let's see. Superplex, Bellinger, you are forgiven.
That was very nice of you, Superplex, for forgiving him. Thank you.
Retro Blasting.
You were off my list. Wow.
Look, don't do that because of me. Seriously, they have great content. You should watch whoever you like watching out there.
Let's not start a cancel culture. That's just not cool.
Yeah, let's not go. I appreciate the loyalty, though. Let me tell you that Superplex, it's awesome. I really do appreciate that. But they've got some really good stuff over there that I've actually drawn from to make some of my videos. So it's been great. All right, well, we are at an hour, folks. So I'm going to go ahead. Yes, even though we haven't talked about everything we were going to talk about, it's okay. I want you guys to drive the show, and that's what this is all about. It's a loose, very loose, outline of what we are going to do. What's your favorite 80s movie? Come on, Empire Strikes Back. Does that count as a sequel, or does that count as the middle of a 3 trilogy type thing? I don't know.
Any movie which falls in the movie is a sequel. So I'll say yes.
Yeah. So
falls in the movie, yeah. So yes, I'd say it was a sequel.
So Empire for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was quick. Was it? Well, I'll stick around for a little while longer. If I answer questions. If I'm not. Yeah. I want to. You don't understand how much I love talking about this stuff. So if you want to talk about it, I could sit and riff on this stuff. Even when the answer is I don't know or I haven't seen it or something, I like talking about 80s pop culture or 90s and 70s pop culture. It's just a lot of fun for me. Yeah.
Another great 80s sequel, Rambo.
Yes.
Sequel to First Blood.
Yeah.
I love that movie when it came out. It's a little over the top when you watch it nowadays, but when you watch it at the time, it was one of those really super patriotic 80s movies that and I thoroughly enjoyed it at the time, certainly. So.
Yeah, I did too. All right, Superplex asked Empire wasn't in it was in 1980. 1980. Yeah, that's when it came out. So maybe no, it came out. Oh, yeah, it came out in 1980. So it just made it right under the wire there. Well, let me also say the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom. I loved the Temple of Doom.
Aliens.
It was my favorite actually of the Indiana Jones series was the Temple of Doom. The first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, was a classic. The second one was actually, in my opinion, the most action-packed. And as a kid watching it, it just was from one scene to another, very little. There was a little bit of a lull time when they got the plot about going and getting the stones, setting in there. But I mean, from the very beginning, with the action scene in the bar,
The
and
nightclub.
and in the nightclub, and then in the airplane, and then I mean, just one thing right after another. I thought it was just terrific. All right. Hey, do me a favor, people. We're gonna wrap it up here pretty soon. I mean, unless more questions come in, which is fine. But the deal is pick one of your favorite episodes of mine. I just had one that came out today. It was on the A-Team. And long story. I butchered the very first point. I butchered it. I said the wrong thing. Anyway, you'll see it. I tried to correct it, but I didn't do it. But I just did one on the A-Team. Maybe pick that one and share it on your favorite social media. Let everybody out there know about what is going on here and then also I'm planning this week I'm just a news here. There's my Patreon. I still have the tip jar over at Patreon, $3 a month for just the tip jar, but I'm going to make a $5. This is going to be my first one, my $5 tip jar, not my tip jar, but my $5 first serial thing. You'll get early releases on everything. So at least by 24 hours. So if I do a video, it'll be on Patreon first. It'll come out first on Patreon for everybody to watch and see, other than the live videos. The live videos will be live, obviously. So, but I will be releasing early releases on Patreon on both the podcast, and actually everything I do will be released at least 24 hours early over on Patreon for the first tier that I'm setting up. All right, so yeah, thumbs up, share on your favorite social media right now. Before you forget, pick one of your favorite videos, share it on your favorite social media, and let's get the word out about this channel. Let's see, Ian, do you mind if I ask Thrash if he thinks the Karate Kid is out of sequence, part 2 or part 3? No, I don't mind. Go ahead.
That's a very good question. As each of the story arcs are microcosmic, I don't think it makes too much difference. It seems to me that I can certainly say how 2 would have been a very good conclusion. He goes back to where it all started. Mr. Miyagi's home of Okinawa, falls in love with a Japanese girl who's noticeably absent in the third one. If you had ended with 2 and had 3 be somewhere in between 1 and 2, I can certainly see how that could have worked. So I'll grant you that. Oh, good night, Ian Thrash. See you on the next stream. Good night, Terrell. Thank you for joining us.
Good night, and great show. Good night. All right, take care, everyone. Take care, everyone. Yeah, see ya in a week or so. Bye.